Welcome to the official Guns Up Nations podcast, the premier voice for the fearless fans of Raiderland and proud supporter of Texas Tech University. Let's meet today's hosts.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm RC Max Little alongside Tobias Bass for another installment of the Guns Up Nation podcast here on the Facebook page, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to podcasts. We appreciate it. Tobias Bass is down in H-Town. Tobias, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just very hungry. So as soon as we finish this, I'm going to make me something to eat. I have no idea what I'm going to make, but I'm going to rummage through that kitchen to find something.
Yeah, I haven't eaten today either. I think I'm just going to have some grapes.
Grapes are good.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I'm working at the golf course. For those who know, I live in Hobbs, New Mexico right now. Typically, I work at the core, the rec center here, but right now they have me relocated at the golf course. And the golf course, Tobias, has a kitchen. And they have like a grill out there, and I'd be telling you, I'd be spending too much money at that thing. It's a death trap, man. I tell you what, they have the best chicken wrap I've ever had in my entire life. No joke. I don't know what they do to it. It's delicious. Only place in town that has dumplings. And I love me a good dumpling.
I mean, I don't even say sometimes, a lot of the time, I miss being in the media at Tech because they did feed us pretty well.
Absolutely.
Especially before game days, I was just like, the other thing I was thinking about, I was like, good Lord, I just miss those snacks, especially baseball. Those little snacks they have in there.
Oh yeah.
Good Lord, I used to be in there. I used to pack a little to-go bag every time because they had all types of stuff. I mean, I know sometimes they probably got sick of me going back and forth, but when you have just a buffet of just snacks, and I'm a kid at heart, I don't really know what you want me to do. Then they used to give us chicken, burgers,
it was good
all
stuff.
That.
Yep, good stuff.
Some good stuff in there. But
yeah.
I miss those days.
Yeah, no, I definitely miss the free food. Definitely miss that. No doubt. On today's show, though, we're going to talk about the tragic passing of Tommy, Mr. Red Raider McVay, and his impact on Texas Tech football. We'll also discuss the Big 12 announcing that they will play football in fall 2020 and what that means for capacity rates in Jones AT&T Stadium. Also discuss the new positives and negatives for Texas Tech and their new outlook on the Big 12 schedule, and also the NCAA announcing that there will be no fall championships and what impact that will have on soccer and volleyball, more specifically soccer, since they are projected to finish first in the Big 12 this year. So we're going to start on a little bit of a somber note. Tommy, Mr. Red Raider McVay, did pass away this past week. He had been part of the football program for nearly a quarter century. 24 years this year would have been his 24th year. Tobias, his impact has been very well put on social media from very prominent members of Texas Tech football, other media members, just everybody telling their Tommy McVay story. I know that you mentioned off air that you hadn't met him, but just seeing the waves of support on social media, you can definitely tell that Tommy McVay had a lasting impact on the football program.
Yeah, no, it is, cool to see everyone that he's impacted. He was there for 5 head coaches, starting from Dykes to Coach Wells. So that's a lot of players, former coaches, he's been involved with. He was a liaison between Tech and the NFL. He found Wes Welker, and, he became a Super Bowl champion. So it's kind of cool to see his impact on Tech. I never got a chance to meet him, but I know that his memory will last for generations, for a lifetime.
Yeah, no, I had the pleasure of meeting him one time. It was just a quick encounter. It was my first season as a media member for Texas Tech football, and this man with just perfect hair, slicked back. You've seen the pictures of him, Tobias. Just perfect, slicked back hair. Walks up to me, and he's like, "How are you doing, son?" And I'm like, "I'm good." And he was like, "Are you part of the media?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir, I am." He's like, "Oh, well, who do you work for?" And I was like, "KTXT, the student radio station." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of y'all. I like y'all stuff." And he was like, "Well, I know if you're part of the media, you can't cheer out loud, but be cheering on the inside for the Red Raiders today, won't you?" And I was like, all right, that might have been the coolest sentence I've ever heard in my life. And then he just, had a little pep in his step, and he started walking toward the sideline and towards Cliff Kingsbury. I was like, all right, that might have been the coolest human being I've ever met in my entire life. And a lot of people are backing that up on social media with a lot of their, stories of Coach McVay and his lasting impact, as you mentioned, Tobias, that he'll have on the football program for for generations to come. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they name a building or something after him, because he had a lasting impact. And, you know, you could definitely tell even just on Coach Wells. He's only been here for 18 months and, you know, 19 months. And Coach Wells was brought to tears by him. This was a guy he saw every day, and Coach McVay had a lasting impact on him. And you can only imagine what kind of impact he had on Cliff Kingsbury and the coaches that, you know, were ahead of him.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, so we'll talk about what Coach McVay wants us to talk about, and that's Red Raider football. And there will be Red Raider football as of right now this fall, as the Big 12 announced that they will have college football in fall 2020. They're going to take proper protocols with the coronavirus and allow students to opt out if they do not want to play. I should say student athletes to opt out. Tobias, the Jones will be at a 25% capacity rate. And if you look at the numbers, it's a little over 15,000. That's coming from Athletic Director Kirby Hocutt. You know, Tobias, you were a little pessimistic off of air before we got on, talking about you think that football could stop. And I don't think you're in the minority on that at all. I think you're probably in the vast majority that you think football will stop eventually. But good news right now anyway for the Big 12 and the Red Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, it is good news. I mean, we need football to play for a variety of reasons, not just our own entertainment, but, you know, that's how other schools make their money. You know, it's unfortunate, but, you know, some schools, they don't make that much money on campus like, you know, the other smaller sports. Not saying they're less significant, they just don't make as much money. So they need them to play, because if they don't, you know, scholarships should get cut. Coaches could potentially lose their job. So from a financial standpoint, you do need football to play. My biggest thing is just I want the athletes to be safe. I know you're the same way.
Absolutely.
If they can find a way to make it safe, you know, sure. It's just, we talked about this in our last show. The issue is just, as a coach, you can't monitor those things because, you know, they're college kids. They want to go out, have fun, party, things like that. And if, you know, I think kids, you talk to coaches, kids are more in tune when they have a structure, you know, a schedule. We're going to practice every day. I'm going to class every day. They, you know, it's structured. When you start giving them more free time, that's when they start getting in trouble. It's not even just athletes, it's just kids in general. You know,
human nature.
Human nature. When you're on a strict schedule, you get things done. You're going to be less. You're going to be more productive. You're more likely not going to get in trouble. When you have a lot of free time, that's when things can get messy.
No, yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the financial impact. Brett McMurphy from the stadium, just tweeted out not even 10 minutes ago, crazy enough. He said Iowa AD says school anticipates lost revenue of approximately $100 million in an overall budget deficit of between $60 million and $75 million due to the coronavirus and no football this season.
Wow. I wonder, because you see what Justin Fields is doing, do you think that what he does or what the players say, do they have any leverage in them playing football?
No, the NCAA couldn't care less about the players. I think we all know that by now. They just don't. You know, that if you still have that mindset that not TCU, my bad. I was looking at the TCU logo on this Texas Tech football schedule we're about to talk about. The NCAA cares about student athletes. You're absolutely wrong. It's just saving face for them. That's all it is. They couldn't care less. It's all a money grab for them. They need the money. That's what it comes down to. And the thing is, like, people are going to say, well, they obviously care about the students. Look at the Big Ten and the Pac-12. They absolutely do not care about the students. They care about the PR and the negative hit that it would take.
And a lawsuit.
Exactly. That's what they care about. They care about their bottom line. Everything comes back down to money with the NCAA and these conferences. Now, the Big 12 and the SEC, and as well as the ACC, are they taking a risk? Absolutely. Like, they're taking a risk right now. You're right, Tobias. This could be shut down right after Houston Baptist, for all we know. You know, it might not even get to Houston Baptist. We don't know. But the thing is, when you look at it, you talked about the money that's lost, right? And that's the impact that I think these other conferences are looking at, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, right or wrong, right? If you believe that students should get paid, they shouldn't get paid, whatever. It doesn't matter at this point. I think it really comes down to the financial aspect of it, to the sense of, you're right. If Texas Tech didn't play football this year, Kirby Hocutt's already said they've taken 80% loss in revenue. That's how important football is to them. Like, and if you take 80% loss in revenue, you're going to lose sports. Simple and plain.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just how it's going to be. Or they're just not going to have the funding to be able to do anything. Like, that's just how it is. I really wonder, and let's say, this is all hypothetical and it wouldn't happen, right? Because football's king, and if football doesn't happen, other sports aren't going to happen. But let's just say hypothetically that Tech doesn't play football this year, but they, go on and they play soccer and volleyball. I wonder what the impact of not having football would be on their budget for just this year. Obviously, they have one in place, but would they cut back on things this year because they know next year they're not going to get the same amount of money? How would that work? It's a risk, but at the same time, it's a risk in the sense of, yeah, you're putting these kids at risk, but the NCAA doesn't care about the kids, and they've shown that time and time again. They just don't care. It's all money for them, and that's just what it is. And, right or wrong, I'm not saying Texas Tech is wrong in this regard, because good for them. They have an opinion. They had a voice. They had a vote, obviously. And if everything from what we heard, Texas Tech said they wanted to play, right? Yeah. Good for them. They've obviously done their research. They're well educated, and they know the risk involved in this. Kirby Hocutt is not a dumb person. Neither is anybody in his inner circle there in the athletic program. So they've done the risk. It's just, in my opinion, when you go to that higher level in the NCAA, they don't care about the kids. Now, every institution below them, in terms of, the Oregons of the world and, Texas Tech and, Alabama's and stuff, they care about their kids, don't get me wrong, to an extent. But at the same time, they also have to care about their budget. They definitely care more about the kids than the NCAA. But I just think, long term, I'm really, really interested to see if it does have an impact, what Justin Fields is doing, because I think it won't, personally, because they haven't cared about the students in the past. Why would they care about them now? But also, I wonder how it's going to impact the Big Ten and Pac-12 with recruiting, and also just does this put them back in the pack? The Big 12 was the laughing stock of the Power 5, quote unquote. Like, they were definitely last when it came to revenue and everything. I wonder if this pushes them forward. People are going to be like, oh, okay, the Big 12 wants to play, and they care about their students in the sense of, okay, we want them to play. I wonder if now that pushes them maybe not to third where they are now in terms of just playing, because they're definitely behind the SEC and ACC. But I wonder if this pushes them forward for more revenue, because they're going to have an opportunity at it, unlike the Big Ten and the Pac-12.
Yeah, that is a good point. What I want to notice is, what I don't understand is, college football is with $1 billion industry. Why is there no president or commissioner of football? They make too much money, and it's just weird to me that you're having all these conferences doing their own thing. You have some conferences that want to play, some conferences that aren't going to play, some conferences are on the fence about it. There needs to be like a governing body or someone over this specifically, like over football specifically, so they can. I mean, right now it's just chaos. You have Power 5 conferences that aren't even playing. Yeah. Then you have some that are playing. Then you have some that, like, we don't know. It's like you can't run $1 billion industry and have no boss. Yeah. That doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
And the thing is, too, I mean, you have the Pac-12 and the Big Ten out, and then you have conferences that aren't in the Power 5. But like the Southland Conference, they're literally just playing out-of-conference games this year. That's it. Yeah. And then they're not having a conference schedule just because they know those games are so important to their athletic programs. Like, if they don't have them, they have no athletic program. That's literally all it comes down to for them. And so, I mean, it's kind of crazy to see just how everybody's going on the fly. And I wonder, because what the Southland Conference is doing, they're just playing out of conference games. My first thought process was, I wonder if the Big Ten is, they're paying close attention to this, obviously, right? Yeah. I think Ohio State and Nebraska more specifically. Well, what's to stop, Ohio State and Nebraska to try and schedule just a bunch of non-conference games?
Yeah.
Or at least a few, right? Like 4 or 5. And make some revenue. I mean, the guys want to play. The players do. And, good for them that the schools are looking out for their safety. But, again, it comes back to the NCAA. It's a money grab. They don't care about the players at all. They really don't. And I think it's been proven time and time again.
One thing that scares me, too, is just, you have some of these smaller conferences. Do they even have the funding enough to consistently test? Because I know that's like – yeah, so that's the other. That's my point. Well, if they don't have the funding to consistently test, I don't know how you tell a parent, oh yeah, like for instance, like let's say Ohio State they do this. Let's say they want to play those smaller conference schools. I don't know how you tell Justin Fields' mom, yeah, they don't have the funding to consistently test, so theoretically, some of them could have the virus. We don't know because they might not have the money to test them consistently. So how do you even send your kid out there or your kids out there to play?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. And that's the thing. We're basically a month away from this starting up.
Yeah, Saturday the NFL is supposed to start. The first preseason was supposed to be this past Saturday.
Yeah. Texas Tech, it's not even a month. Texas Tech is supposed to start on September 12th.
Yeah. It's not even a month. Like 27, 28 days, something like that.
Yeah. Just unbelievable.
That scares me though. If I'm a parent, because like I said, they can't test. I'm not sending my kid to go. For example, Justin Fields, he's going to be a top 10 pick regardless. There is no reward is he honestly going to get from playing HBU, Southeastern Louisiana.
No, it's all negative.
Yeah, it's because I'm saying they can't test it. They can't test his opponents. He's going there's no. I know he wants to play, and I get it, but just looking at it from a health standpoint and just his future, you're not going to get any benefit from throwing 1,000 yards on TSU. There's no benefit.
Yeah,
they can't even test your opponent. Yeah, that DN that's trying to sack you, he hasn't been tested in a month. God knows what he has.
Yeah. Well, and that's not even the thing. Like, let's just say hypothetically, Ohio State is so good they don't get within 6 feet of Justin Fields, right? But those offensive linemen that were blocking for him, they're going to be within 6 feet of him. That's the problem, is just the spreading. It's a constant spreading of it. And I just – there's a lot of flaws in this. But again, it comes down to I get why the Big 12, SEC, and ACC are playing. I really get it. But at the same time, man, there's a lot of flaws in this. And I just wish overall I wish there was a little bit more concrete, outlining, I should say, of, okay, this is how many tests are going to happen, what happens if this happens, so on and so forth. And it was consistent through every conference that's playing. Like, you have to go in there, like you're saying, let's just say Houston Baptist, right, in the Southland. You have to follow the protocols of whoever you're playing. So if you're playing, the Big 12 and the SEC, you have to follow and meet those protocols because they're going to be similar, right? So you have to know if you can afford that. If you can't afford it, okay, you're out. Simple and plain. That's just how it should work, in my opinion. But it's going to be interesting. You're probably, like I said, in the majority in terms of, people thinking that football season is not going to happen. I tend to think that it's going to happen one way or another. They're going to make this happen. And I just think there's just too much money involved. And, eventually somebody's going to have to union these guys or be a president or something for it because the voices are just too loud. And the NCAA has proven that they just don't care about them at all. But we'll move on and talk about Texas Tech in their football schedule. They start off with Houston Baptist. We mentioned them from the Southland Conference, but we don't really need to talk about them. Let's talk about the new schedule in the Big 12 that they released, Tobias. Really, really different. Really different from what Tech had, because Tech was supposed to end the year with OU, and now they end it with Kansas. At least right now is what it's supposed to be. So let's just run through it real quick. They start with Houston Baptist. Then they welcome UT in 2 weeks later. Then they go to Manhattan, Kansas. Then they go to Ames. Then they have West Virginia and Oklahoma at home. Then they travel to Fort Worth. Then they welcome in Baylor for the first time in over a decade to the 806. And then Oklahoma State and then Kansas. So what are we looking at in terms of the schedule, Tobias? What stands out to you in terms of the changes?
It's very spread out as far as them playing good teams in the conference. So your first 4 weeks, you play 2 teams that are projected to finish in the top 4 of the Big 12, in Texas and Iowa State. You play West Virginia, then you play OU, who's predicted to win, TCU, Baylor, then you play Oklahoma State, who's predicted, I think, finish second or third. I think it's second in the Big 12. They really don't get any breaks in between. You have a easier game per se, then you have a tough one. Then you have 2 tough ones in a row. Then you just they're not really getting a break, I say. But I don't know. I want to see how this affects them with no fans, because crazy things happen tonight in the Jones. But if there's no fans, and it's not as rowdy as it can be. I wonder how does that affect the players.
Yeah, that's the thing. I really don't know how it will affect players. And just to make sure I got it right, the last time Baylor played in Lubbock, it was 2008. So they have not been to Lubbock in almost 12 years. It'll be 12 years this year when they play. But, yeah, I don't know what that's going to look like, honestly. Like, for me, I thought the Tech schedule laid out pretty well. And crazy enough, I think the Tech schedule now actually lays out better. I don't know if you think that, but personally – I think it's great for Tech right now, because this is what I think personally, and you can poo-poo it all you want and just crap on it, whatever you want to do, Tobias. But you play Houston Baptist, right? That's a good warm-up game. That's a preseason. Yeah. You should win. You should win that game. I want to catch one of those Oklahoma, Texas teams early.
That's
I really
fair.
do.
That's a good point.
I really do. And I want to catch them early at home, because – you didn't have those spring practices. Teams like Texas, yeah, they have those 5-star, 4-star recruits, but they got to ease their way in. And, I mean, Texas Tech the same way. But Texas Tech, they did lose quite a few people on the offensive line. Granted, they did lose Jordan Brooks and Broderick Washington, but they kept a lot, and I mean a lot of people on defense this year. And not to mention, a lot of the weapons are back for Alan Bowman, who's supposed to be healthy. So you look at that, you get your best offensive lineman back in Jack Anderson. Dawson Deaton took a huge step forward last year, and he's going to be the projected starting center. Now, the other 3 spots on the offensive line are a little question marks, but you do have a guy from Wofford, comes in as a grad transfer. He's going to start in Berger. And then you also have a couple other guys that have played. So, really, Texas Tech hasn't lost a lot of key members. Obviously, Broderick and Jordan definitely are key members. I'm not trying to say otherwise. But they have depth there at those positions, right? So I want to catch these guys at UT early at home and see how that atmosphere plays at Tech, because you got to remember, Texas, they play UTEP early on, so they're kind of in the same boat. Yeah. It's a gimme game, right? So Texas Tech will be their quote-unquote first competition, real competition, I should say. And I want to catch one of those teams early, because maybe they're just not in that rhythm yet. I don't want to catch them when it's week 4 and they found out and they've got all the kinks out. Right? So maybe there's a couple of kinks, and shoot, there might be kinks for Texas Tech too, for all I know. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I will take my chances with finding those kinks and, maybe having a couple less kinks than UT, who has to travel to Lubbock as well early on in the year. That's the first time they have to travel as well. You got to remember that. And we have no idea what traveling looks like at this point with COVID, right? We have no idea. They could be coming on a Wednesday for all we know. We don't know how this is going to look. So I want one of those UT teams or Oklahoma early on, and Texas Tech got it. So I think that's great. Now, Manhattan and Iowa State going to Ames in Manhattan, that scares the hell out of me. It scares the hell out of me, honestly, because I have no idea what to expect. Again, Texas Tech's first time to go to, travel is Manhattan, Kansas, where they don't play well to begin with. Doesn't set up well for success. So I'm just running through in my head right now. Probably, if we're being realistic and, hopeful to a degree, I would say the first 4 games, realistically, probably Tech goes 1-3. But I probably have them at 2-2. I think they win one of those Texas, Kansas State, or Iowa State games.
Yeah, I mean, 1-3 is fair. I would probably say 2-2. I mean, it just sucks because you're playing at Manhattan. Then you're going to Ames, just like, okay, I mean, I don't want to, be negative Nancy here, but
you suck there.
Yeah, you don't. You don't play well there. You play West Virginia at home. I can see them going 2-2, but that October 3rd to October 10th, that does scare the hell out of me, because you just don't play well up there.
No, the great thing is, in my opinion too, I love how the buys are spaced out for Texas Tech this year, personally. Because you look at it, they have a bye after Houston Baptist. You can go back and get the film, and you can work out those kinks. You know what I mean? Before you play UT and hopefully you get an upset. Probably not, but you have that potential, right? So you can work out those kinks for 2 weeks, right? Okay, so then you have a 3-week stretch where you play UT, Kansas State, Iowa State. Again, you probably go 0-3. That's what most people would say. I think you probably go 1-2. Maybe that's me being hopeful. But then the best part is you get a bye week after you go to Ames, and you get to work out kinks before you have West Virginia and Oklahoma come in. That is huge, because you get to do it at home. You don't have to travel that next week off of a bye. So you are legitimately, when you get back, let's just say you get back October 11th, You were at home from October 11th till November 6th. You were basically in the 806 for a month straight.
Yeah.
That is huge. That's huge for any kind of coach, especially when you didn't have a spring practice or anything.
Yeah. What interests me the most is, we're going to see football in December. It's going to be cold as hell in Olympic. I want to see, are we going to see snow? Are we going to get, what are we really going to see in December? December 5th, we play Kansas. What are we going to see December 5th?
Yeah.
Is it going to be snowing? Thank God we're not going to Lawrence to play them up there, because I said we probably lose that game because it's going to be super cold up there.
I mean, it's so weird to me. This year, I'm looking at it. So there's 11 games. I think probably most people would probably say Texas Tech is going 3-8, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're projected to finish 9th in the Big 12, I would guess that's what it is. And then Kansas goes probably 2-9 or whatnot. That's what I would guess. But I'm looking at it, and I think the schedule just really works out, And I think this all comes down to one big factor too, is the quarterback position. Does Alan Bowman stay healthy? And if Alan Bowman stays healthy, we've seen it. He's 6-5 as a starter. He hasn't gotten to play great competition, but when he got to play OU, they were winning. Kyler didn't look great, but at the same time, they were winning against OU. So for me, when I look at this, and this is, what's today's date? It's the 17th. This is subject to change before September 12th.
Right.
I love how it sets up for Tech. So I think Houston Baptist is a win. I'm not going to say Texas is a win, but I do think they win one of those Kansas or Iowa State games. So they're 2-2. I think they split West Virginia, Oklahoma. That's 3-3. I think they split TCU and Baylor. So we're at 4-4 now, right? Did I do the math? No, I did the math wrong. Now you're at 4-5. I'm sorry. 4-5. And then I think they split Oklahoma State and Kansas. So I think they go 5-6 right now. But again, when I say 5-6, that could easily mean they go, 4-7.
Yeah. But what I want to see, back half of the schedule, they're playing a bunch of teams with a lot of uncertainty. TCU, a lot of guys left on that defense. Baylor, new coach, new quarterback, a lot of stuff is left. OU, they'll be in sync, I'm sure, about week 5, week 6. But they're playing teams at the back half of their schedule. They don't really know what they have right now.
Yeah.
They're playing teams with new quarterbacks, new defensive players. TCU, it seems like everyone on their defense got drafted. So I want to see if that plays into their favor at all, just about, just the uncertainty right now.
Yeah, and who knows, by Halloween when they play OU, there might not be football. You could be right.
Yeah.
So, for me, when I just look at it, there's a lot of what-ifs about Texas Tech, and I'm probably taking the, positive approach. I've done it before, especially last year. God knows that. But I really think this sets up really, really well for Texas Tech because the thing is, look, they play Baylor on November 14th. Then they have a bye week before they go to Stillwater. That's huge. I'm not saying I'm not going to predict an upset, but it's possible. Shoot, look what happened last year or 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Look what happened 2 years ago in Stillwater when Tech went up there and they beat them on a Thursday night. It's possible for this to happen. Now, I'm not going to predict it, like I said, but I really think the schedule really lays out well for Texas Tech. It's just kind of, will it actually happen due to COVID?
Right.
All right, we'll move on. We mentioned the 25% capacity rate for Jones AT&T Stadium. For more information on that, I would definitely just contact Texas Tech. Be on the lookout for those emails. About 15,000. I don't think there's going to be season ticket holders this year. From what I understood, it looked like they were going to do mini game packages, but that's subject to change, and be on the lookout for that. It's definitely coming up. Shoot, we're, 27 days away, did you say, Tobias?
Yeah, roughly about.
There we go. So we'll move on to the last topic. We talked about the positives and negatives of the Texas Tech football schedule. No fall championships in the NCAA this year, so it's just going to be conference play. Or I guess not just conference play, but there will be no championships like, the tournament for volleyball or anything like that, or the NCAA tournament for soccer. Volleyball has been one of those programs that looks like it's on the upswing. Looks like it kind of plateaued a little bit potentially, but at the same time, a lot of potential there with some of the people that Coach Tony Greystone and Morgan Thomas have brought in. And then soccer, I don't think people realize how great this soccer team has a chance to be this year.
Oh, yeah. No, they're going to be really good.
You have Kirsten Davis coming back, but you also have Allie Griffin and Jade King coming back.
Yep.
You have, your top goal scorers from the past 3 years on this roster now. I mean, that's insane when you look at it. So I think when you look at Texas Tech soccer, there's a lot of positives. Now, the one negative is they won't have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament again under Coach Stone, which I think, honestly, if they had the chance this year, this might be the best chance they have to, get to that Sweet 16 again in a long time.
But, yeah, I agree. Like you said, they have a lot of people coming back. Madison White's coming back. You got Hyatt's coming back. You have a Charlotte Teeter. I mean, but a good part of this team is coming back, and I think, they're favorites to win the Big 12 for a reason. I mean, we talked about this last year on the last game. We thought that this coming team, this year's team, would be special, and I trust Coach, and I think they're going to have a really, really good team. Hopefully they can, we'll have some certainty or some more stability towards the end of the season so we can really see these girls play. But I like this team going forward.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that we won't get to see them in the tournament, because I truly believe that if they were in the tournament, they'd have a chance to go to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I agree.
With all these historical soccer programs, it's hard to say they go past the Sweet 16. But, Coach Stone is getting his name up there as one of the best soccer coaches already in the country, and he's built this program that was in shambles before. When Coach Stone showed up, this program was non-existent.
They're playing at the rec, basically.
Yeah. So, Coach Stone has really brought this program up from the depths of – it sounds bad, but basically nothing into a national power that, girls from really big soccer clubs in their high school ranks are coming and playing here at Texas Tech, and they're succeeding. Yeah, and then they go all over the world. Janine Becky from Canada. You're getting girls from Australia. You're getting girls from New Zealand. You're getting girls from literally everywhere across the planet, and they're winning. It just kind of sucks that we won't get to see what arguably could have been one of the best teams in program history, have their chance in the, fall championships.
What I want to see is, coaching this year is going to be very, very tough because, certain things just can't happen. So I want to see, how the coach is going to be able to manage, egos, expectations, making sure the team's not too high, not too low, be able to find that median because, it's just this team's going to be great. But, unfortunately, they're likely not going to be able to experience, certain things. So I want to see what type of job all these coaches have to do because it's just hard this year. It's hard to tell your team, especially if they know they're going to be really good and they play the way they're supposed to. It just kind of sucks. You're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So I want to see how all our coaches and just coaches all across the country handle that.
Yeah, I think, this year for Texas Tech, the Big 12 championship is your national title. Yeah. Simple and plain. If you win the Big 12 championship, you set out for your goal this year. It's Big 12 championship or bust for them.
Right.
That's just how it's going to be. When you have Jade King, Allie Griffin, and Kirsten Davis up there attacking, that might be the best threesome on an attack that anybody has in the Big 12 right there.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a crazy attack right there. And then they also get most of their back line back. Amanda Porter, in her first year as a defender, had some iffy moments, but she also came on strong. Remember, she transferred from Arizona and was Arizona's leading goal scorer as a forward. Mm-hmm. And then Coach Stone got her to come to the 806 and moved her to defense. You already mentioned Cassie Hyatt. You got, my goodness, Vanellope in the middle, the freshman from Canada. There's so many talented girls on this team, and it's loaded. And, the recruiting class they brought in, 7 new girls. There's girls from the JUCO ranks that were the number 1 JUCO player in the country, in terms of goal scoring, and they won JUCO national championships or Division III national championships. This team is absolutely loaded, as you mentioned, Tobias. It just kind of sucks that we won't get to see them, have a chance to beat the North Carolinas and the Michigans in the tournament and get a little bit revenge. But it is what it is. And, I fully expect this team to come out, be prepared. And, again, Big 12 title or bust for these girls.
Yeah, hopefully, Coach, I know Coach, he's a great coach. Hope we can just keep their spirits, high and just be like, enjoy your time, enjoy this time because, unfortunately, we're not going to have that much time together because the season is chaos. But hopefully they'll be able to keep their spirits positive and they can just win, all the games, like you said, Big 12 championship or bust.
Yeah, maybe we need to get you out there with a Baylor zip-up jacket for a little bit of motivation.
I'm down. I'm so down for that. I don't want to wear Baylor, though. I don't want to wear Baylor, though. We don't. Well, our old roommate went to Baylor. I don't know.
You gotta wear, a rival out there or something. Maybe Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, something like that.
Pick something else. I don't know. I don't like those.
UT? TCU.
Yeah, I guess we'll find. I don't. Some of these schools, you're getting worse as you're going down. I don't know.
I can't help it. I'm running out of schools.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
I'm running out of schools in the Big 12, Tobias. But hey, you got anything else, man, for the podcast?
No, I don't think so. I'm just hopefully they can be able to finish the season, make sure everyone's wearing a mask, be safe. Let's not be selfish. And stop complaining about wearing a damn mask. Like doctors and nurses wear them 10, 15 hours a day. You're wearing them for 5 minutes. Just be reasonable.
Agreed. It's not all about you. Think about others too. It's not the disease is airborne, so that means it doesn't just affect you. I mean, there's other things where it goes out, and a mask helps prevent that. So definitely wear your mask. Be smart. Think of others. And I mean, here at Guns Up Nation, we're trying to wear a mask all we can, but it's one of those things where the sooner we realize as a society we need to stop being selfish, the better. And that doesn't just go for the coronavirus. That just goes for generations to come as well. So, but for Tobias Bass, you can follow him at Tobias_Bass on Twitter. Be sure to go follow his new podcast too on there, The Opinionated Man. You can follow that on iTunes. Yeah, you can go subscribe to that. Good stuff. He talks about the NBA and college basketball. And then I'm RC Maxfield at RCMB323 on Twitter. And be sure to go follow Guns Up Nation on Twitter. We got over 15,000 followers on Twitter now. That's freaking awesome. And then on Facebook, we're almost at 73,000. And then go help us out on IG. We're trying to get to 1,000 on there. So the quicker we get to 1,000, we might just do a giveaway. We'll see what happens, though. But again, for Tobias Bass, I'm RC Maxfield. Wear your mask. And as always, guys, keep your guns up.
Thanks for listening to the Guns Up Nation podcast. The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the fan page administrators, podcast hosts, and fans, and do not reflect the opinions of Texas Tech University or its affiliates. We are proud to support Texas Tech, its students, alumni, and fans.